Dmitri Volkov owned half of Moscow. His word ended bloodlines. His money bought governments. But on his $200 million super yacht, alone in the Mediterranean, he was on his knees, broken. His 3-month-old son had been screaming for 72 hours straight, and the most dangerous man in Russia couldn't make it stop. 4 formulas rejected. 6 doctors flown in by helicopter. Every trick failed. His baby was dying, and all his billions were useless. Then she appeared, a black woman in a nurse's uniform, with eyes that had buried too many people. She didn't ask permission, didn't explain. She looked at his suffering son, looked at his shattered face, and whispered 6 words that stopped his heart. "Let me breastfeed him. Trust me." Dmitri never trusted anyone, especially not someone sent by his enemy. But his son was breaking apart in his arms, so he made a choice that would cost him everything. What Dmitri didn't know, she wasn't just any nurse. She was Kamdi Zora, widow of the Nigerian oil executive his rival had murdered in Moscow. And the moment she put his son to her breast, she triggered a countdown neither of them could stop. 6 days until his enemies found them. 6 days until her secret came out. 6 days until the Russian Bratva declared war on them both. Saving his son cost him nothing. Falling in love with his enemy's widow? That would cost him his empire, his name, and every drop of blood in his body. Some love stories start with flowers. This one started with breast milk and ended with bodies in the Mediterranean. But before I tell you how it all fell apart, let me take you back to the beginning. Back to the moment when everything changed. If you love stories about forbidden love, dangerous men finding redemption, and women brave enough to risk everything, you're going to want to hear every word of this. So get comfortable, maybe grab some tissues, and let me tell you about Dmitri and Kamdi. And if you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button now so you never miss another epic, dangerous love story like this one. The $200 million super yacht cut through the Mediterranean like a knife through silk, leaving a trail of white foam under the full moon. Inside the master suite, Dmitri Volkov, the man who controlled half of Moscow's underground, who made oligarchs kneel and politicians beg, sat on the edge of a California king bed with his head in his hands, listening to his son scream. 72 hours, 3 days of hell. 3 days of Maxim's cries echoing through the yacht's teak hallways, bouncing off marble walls, driving the crew to whispers and the captain to concerned phone calls. "Sir!" His head of security, Yuri, knocked softly on the door. "The night nurse quit. That's the 4th one this week. She said—" He paused. "She said the baby is possessed." Dmitri's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. "Get out!" Yuri left without another word. Smart man. Dmitri stood and crossed to the bassinet where Maxim, 3 months old, red-faced and furious, screamed with the kind of rage that shattered eardrums and sanity. His tiny fists pumped the air. His face was purple. Sweat soaked his onesie. "Please," Dmitri whispered in Russian, reaching down to lift his son. "Please, Maxim, tell me what you need." But Maxim couldn't tell him anything. He just screamed. Dmitri tried the bottle again, Maxim's 6th formula in 3 days. The baby's mouth clamped shut, refusing. Dmitri tried rocking, tried singing the lullabies his own mother had sung before his father beat the softness out of her, tried everything the parade of doctors had suggested when he'd had them helicoptered onto the yacht at various ports. Nothing worked. "Boss?" Another knock. Ivan, his second in command. "The guests are complaining. Mrs. Petrov said if the baby doesn't quiet down, she and her husband are disembarking in Athens tomorrow." "Let them." Dmitri's voice was flat. The Petrovs were oil money, useful contacts. A week ago, he would have cared about losing them. Now he would give every ruble he owned, every connection he'd built, every drop of blood he'd spilled, just to make his son stop suffering. Because that's what this was, suffering. Maxim wasn't just fussy, something was wrong, and Dmitri was powerless to fix it. The word tasted like poison. Powerless. He'd ordered hits without blinking, built an empire from nothing, survived 3 assassination attempts and a childhood in the brutal streets of St. Petersburg. But he couldn't figure out why his own baby wouldn't stop crying. Dmitri walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the moonlit sea. Maxim's screams grew hoarse, breaking into hiccups before starting again with renewed fury. The sound clawed at Dmitri's chest, ripping open something he'd kept locked away for 38 years. Fear. "I'm sorry," Dmitri whispered to his son, tears burning his eyes. "I'm so sorry. I don't know how to help you." His phone buzzed. A text from Ivan. "The new nurse is here. Sent by Kozlov's people. Says she's a specialist." Dmitri's stomach tightened. Ivan Kozlov, his biggest rival, the man who'd been trying to destroy the Volkov empire for 3 years, had sent a nurse? Every instinct screamed trap, but desperation made men stupid. "Send her in," he texted back. 2 minutes later, the door opened. She was beautiful. That was his first thought, and it felt like a betrayal to notice while his son was screaming. But she was, tall and full-figured, with rich dark skin that seemed to glow in the suite's soft lighting. Her hair was natural, pulled back into a thick bun. She wore simple blue scrubs and carried a medical bag, but it was her eyes that stopped him cold. Deep brown and devastated, like she'd looked into hell and barely crawled out. "Mr. Volkov," her voice was smooth, professional, with a slight British accent underneath something else. Nigerian, maybe. "I'm Kamdi Zora. I'm a neonatal intensive care nurse. May I see your son?" Dmitri's hand instinctively moved toward the gun he kept in his waistband. "Who sent you?" "An agency in Athens. I work private cases for wealthy families." She stepped closer, and Dmitri caught her scent, something clean and floral that cut through the chaos. "But right now, I don't care who sent me. I care about that baby who's been crying for 3 days straight." "How do you know it's been 3 days?" "Because I can hear the exhaustion in his cry, see the dehydration in his color even from here, and I can see that you haven't slept since it started." She met his eyes without flinching. "So either let me help, or keep doing what clearly isn't working." Boldness. No one spoke to Dmitri Volkov like that. He could have her thrown overboard, could have Yuri put a bullet in her head. Instead, he heard himself say, "What can you do that 6 doctors couldn't?" Kamdi set down her bag and moved toward him with the confidence of someone used to crisis situations. She looked at Maxim, really looked at him, her expression shifting to something tender and broken at the same time. "May I hold him?" Dmitri hesitated. Trust was currency in his world, and he had none to spare. But Maxim's screams were weakening now, turning raspy and pitiful, and the sound was worse than the rage. He handed over his son. Kamdi took Maxim carefully, supporting his head with practiced ease. She touched his forehead, felt his belly, checked his diaper with efficient movements. The whole time, she hummed something low and rhythmic, a lullaby maybe, or a prayer. "He's not sick," she said finally. "No fever, no signs of colic or reflux. His vitals are strong." "Then why won't he stop crying?" Kamdi looked up at Dmitri, and something passed between them, a current of shared desperation. "How long since his mother nursed him?" The question hit like a fist. "His mother died. Childbirth complications. 3 months ago." "I'm sorry." And she meant it. He could hear the genuine grief in her voice. "Has he been exclusively bottle-fed?" "Yes, we've tried 6 different formulas. He rejects them all." Kamdi's jaw tightened. She looked down at Maxim, then back at Dmitri. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I lost my babies 8 months ago. Twin daughters. They died with their father in Moscow." The confession hung in the air between them. Dmitri felt something shift in his chest. "I'm sorry," he said, and realized he meant it too. "My body still produces milk." Kamdi's eyes filled with tears that didn't fall. "Every day, it's a reminder of what I lost. But right now, it might be exactly what your son needs. Sometimes babies reject formula. Sometimes they need what nature intended." Dmitri's breath caught. She was offering to. "I can try," Kamdi continued, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "If you're comfortable with it. If you trust me enough." Trust. That word again. Maxim let out another weak cry, and Dmitri felt his resistance crumble. "What do you need?" "Privacy, a comfortable chair, and for you to understand that this is just about helping him. Nothing else." Dmitri nodded. "The bedroom, through there." Kamdi carried Maxim into the adjoining room, a smaller space with a cream-colored armchair by the window. Dmitri followed but stopped at the doorway, suddenly unsure if he should watch or leave. "You can stay," Kamdi said, reading his hesitation. "But turn around until I'm ready. This is intimate." Dmitri turned to face the door, his heart pounding for reasons he couldn't name. Behind him, he heard the rustle of fabric, Kamdi's soft voice murmuring to Maxim, and then silence. Not complete silence. He could hear the gentle sound of Maxim feeding, small, satisfied noises that Dmitri had never heard from his son, but the screaming had stopped. "You can look now," Kamdi said softly. Dmitri turned. The sight knocked the air from his lungs. Kamdi sat in the armchair with Maxim cradled against her chest, nursing peacefully. Her scrub top was adjusted for modesty, but there was nothing modest about the moment. It was raw and primal and beautiful. This stranger feeding his son, her expression a mixture of pain and peace. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Dmitri crossed the room without thinking and knelt beside the chair. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." Kamdi looked at him, and their eyes locked. The connection was electric, dangerous, something neither of them had asked for. "What's his name?" she asked. "Maxim. We call him Max." "Hello, Max," Kamdi whispered, looking down at the baby. "You're safe now, I've got you." Now I know what you're thinking. This is already intense, and we're just getting started. Trust me, this story goes places you won't expect. If you're feeling the chemistry between Dmitri and Kamdi already, wait until you see what happens next. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're invested in their story, because things are about to get complicated. They stayed like that, Dmitri kneeling beside them, Kamdi feeding his son, until Maxim's eyes drifted closed and his tiny body relaxed completely. For the first time in 72 hours, peace. "I should put him down," Kamdi said. "Not yet." Dmitri's hand moved without permission, covering hers where it rested on Maxim's back. "Please, just a few more minutes." Kamdi didn't pull away. "What happened to his mother, if you don't mind me asking?" Dmitri's throat tightened. "Her name was Svetlana. We weren't in love, an arrangement. Old families, strategic alliance. She got pregnant, and I thought maybe—" He trailed off. "She hemorrhaged during delivery. The doctors couldn't stop it." "That wasn't your fault." "Wasn't it? I brought her into my world. A world where hospitals ask questions, where police get involved. We had a private doctor on my estate. Maybe if we'd been in a real hospital—" "She still might have died," Kamdi interrupted gently. "Postpartum hemorrhage can happen anywhere, even in the best hospitals." "How did yours die?" The question was too personal, too soon, but Dmitri couldn't stop himself. "Your daughters, your husband." Kamdi's hand tensed under his. "Car bomb, Moscow 8 months ago. They were going to visit my husband's mother. I was working a night shift at the International Medical Clinic. The bomb was meant for someone else, wrong car, wrong time. But they died anyway." "Christ." Dmitri's hand tightened on hers. "I'm sorry, there aren't words." "No, there aren't." Kamdi's voice was hollow. "I wanted to die too. For months, I couldn't figure out why I survived when they didn't. My husband, Chidi, my daughters, Ada and Zara. They were 18 months old, just starting to talk, to run, to be real people. And then they were just gone." Dmitri didn't know what to say. In his world, death was currency, something you dealt to enemies, something you avoided from rivals. But this? Innocent children blown apart? A husband murdered for being in the wrong place? "Who did it?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. The police said it was gang violence, a mistake. They never found who planted the bomb." Kamdi finally looked at him again. "That's why I'm here. I couldn't stay in Moscow anymore. Too many ghosts, too many memories. So I took this job, private nurse for wealthy families traveling through the Mediterranean. It keeps me moving, keeps me from thinking too much." "And the milk?" Dmitri asked carefully. "That must be torture." "Every day." Kamdi's voice cracked. "I tried everything to make it stop. Medication, binding, time. Nothing worked. My body doesn't understand that my babies are gone. So every morning I wake up in pain, reminded that I have this gift no one needs anymore." Max needs it. Dmitri's thumb stroked the back of her hand. You saved him tonight. Saved us both. Kamdi's eyes filled with fresh tears. It felt good. For the first time in 8 months, this, she gestured to her chest, felt like a gift again instead of a curse. They sat in comfortable silence for another 10 minutes before Maxim was deeply asleep enough to be moved. Kamdi stood carefully and laid him in the bassinet. He stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Will you stay? Dmitri asked, surprising himself. Just for tonight, in case he wakes up? Kamdi hesitated, and Dmitri saw the war in her eyes, professional boundaries versus basic human need for connection. I'll sleep on the couch in the living area, she said finally, and if he wakes, you call me immediately, but Mr. Volkov, Dmitri, please. Dmitri. His name and her accent sent electricity down his spine. This arrangement needs to be clear. I'm here to help your son. That's all. I'm not ready for anything else. I understand. He did, even as every cell in his body screamed to pull her closer. Thank you, Kamdi. She nodded and left the bedroom. Dmitri watched her settle onto the leather couch, pulling a throw blanket over herself. Even exhausted and grieving, she was stunning. He forced himself to turn away and check on Maxim. His son slept peacefully, tiny chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm. The transformation was miraculous. 3 days of agony ended by a stranger's kindness. Except she didn't feel like a stranger anymore. Dmitri knew he should be suspicious. Should question why Ivan Kozlov's people had sent her. Should search her bag, have Yuri run a background check, put guards outside the suite. But when he lay down on his bed, still fully clothed, gun within reach, all he could think about was the way Kamdi had looked holding his son. The way her hand had felt under his, the devastation in her eyes that matched his own. He fell asleep thinking about her, and across the room, on the couch, Kamdi lay awake, wondering what the hell she'd just gotten herself into. Dmitri woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and a moment of pure panic when he didn't immediately hear Maxim crying. He bolted upright, reaching for his gun, and saw Kamdi in the armchair by the window, Maxim in her arms, both of them bathed in golden morning light. She was feeding him again, humming that same lullaby from last night. He woke at 4, Kamdi said softly, noticing Dmitri was awake. I hope that was okay. I didn't want to wake you. Dmitri lowered the gun and ran a hand through his hair. How long have you been up? Since then. He ate and went back to sleep for a while, but he was hungry again at 7. She looked down at Maxim with such tenderness that Dmitri's chest ached. He's a good eater, strong. Dmitri stood and crossed to them, unable to stay away. In the morning light, he could see details he'd missed last night, the delicate lines at the corners of Kamdi's eyes, the fullness of her lips, the natural beauty that needed no enhancement. Did you sleep at all? He asked. A little. I'm used to night shifts. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And honestly, holding him helps. Makes me feel less empty. Dmitri knelt beside the chair again, drawn to this position like a supplicant at an altar. I should pay you. Whatever rate you charge, I'll triple it, quadruple it. I don't want your money, Kamdi's voice was firm. I'm doing this because it helps me as much as it helps him. Don't make it transactional. Then what can I give you? Honesty. She met his eyes. Tell me who you really are, Dmitri Volkov. Because I've worked for enough wealthy Russians to know that men with yachts like this don't make their money in legal ways. The directness should have made him defensive. Instead, it made him want her more. You're right, Dmitri sat back on his heels. I'm not a good man, Kamdi. I run an organization that controls oil, weapons, and politicians in Moscow and St. Petersburg. People who cross me disappear. I've given orders that ended lives. I've built an empire on blood and fear. Kamdi's expression didn't change. And Maxim's mother, was she part of that world? Yes, daughter of the Petrov family. The marriage was arranged to unite territories. We had an understanding. She'd give me an heir. I'd give her protection and wealth. We didn't love each other, but we didn't hate each other either. Dmitri's voice roughened. When she died, I felt guilty. Like I'd sentenced her to death by bringing her into my life. And now? Are you still in that world? I'm trying to leave. The confession surprised him. He hadn't admitted that to anyone, not even Ivan. When Maxim was born, something changed. I looked at him, this tiny, perfect thing, and realized I didn't want him growing up in the shadows, didn't want him learning to solve problems with violence and fear. I want better for him. Then why are you still here? On this yacht, in this life? Because leaving isn't simple. I know too much. I'm too valuable to my allies and too dangerous to my enemies. If I just walk away, they'll hunt me down. Hunt him down. Dmitri gestured to Maxim. I need leverage, protection, a way out that doesn't end with us both dead. Kamdi was quiet for a long moment, Maxim's feeding sounds the only noise between them. Finally, she asked, Do you know a man named Ivan Kozlov? Every muscle in Dmitri's body tensed. Why? Because he's the one who arranged for me to be here. I didn't know it at first. I was hired through an agency, but yesterday, after I arrived, one of the yacht staff mentioned that Mr. Kozlov had specifically requested me. She paused. I thought it was strange. Why would your rival want to help your son? Dmitri's mind raced. Ivan didn't do anything out of kindness. If he'd sent Kamdi, there was a reason, a trap, a play. Did he give you anything? Dmitri asked carefully. Instructions? Something to plant, maybe? Plant? You mean like a... Kamdi's eyes widened. You think I'm here to spy on you? I think Ivan wants me to think that. Dmitri stood and started pacing. He's been trying to destroy me for 3 years. If he sent you, it's to get in my head, make me paranoid, question everyone around me. Or maybe he sent me to hurt you in a more direct way. Kamdi's voice was ice. Poison your son, sabotage the yacht, kill you in your sleep. Are you? No. The word was absolute. I don't care about your war with Ivan Kozlov. I don't care about territories or empires. I care about that baby who was suffering, and now he's not. That's all. Dmitri studied her face, searching for deception. He'd learned to read lies. It had kept him alive. But all he saw in Kamdi was exhaustion, grief, and a fierce protectiveness toward Maxim. I believe you, he said finally. But you're going to have me searched anyway, aren't you? My bag checked. My background investigated. Yes, Kamdi nodded. Good. You should. I would if I were you. She carefully lifted Maxim to her shoulder to burp him. But you should also know, I'm not going to abandon him now. Whatever Ivan's game is, Max needs me. So we're going to have to find a way to work together because I'm not leaving this yacht until I'm sure he's okay. The determination in her voice made something hot unfurl in Dmitri's chest. You're very brave. I'm very tired of being afraid. Kamdi patted Maxim's back gently until he burped. I've spent 8 months waiting to die, hoping every day might be my last so I can stop hurting. But this, helping him, it gave me something I haven't had since the bombing. Purpose. Then stay. Dmitri moved closer. Not because of Ivan's game, not because I'm paying you. Stay because you want to, because it helps you. Kamdi looked up at him, and the air between them crackled with something neither wanted to name. Okay, I'll stay. Thank you. Maxim let out a satisfied sigh and promptly fell asleep against Kamdi's shoulder. She smiled, a real smile this time, and the transformation was breathtaking. He's perfect, she whispered. He is. But Dmitri wasn't looking at his son. He was looking at the woman holding him and thinking dangerous thoughts about what it would be like to have this every day. To wake up to her feeding his son, to kneel beside her in the morning light, to be something other than what he'd always been. Can you feel it? That tension building between them? That connection neither of them expected? If you're wondering how a mafia boss and a grieving nurse could possibly make this work, stick with me. Because what happens next is going to test everything they think they know about trust, love, and survival. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Kamdi should trust Dmitri? Or is she walking into a trap? A knock on the suite door shattered the moment. Stay here, Dmitri ordered, his voice shifting to the cold authority Kamdi had heard in his earlier confession. He crossed to the door and opened it slightly. What? Boss. Ivan stood there, his expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Petrov is insisting on speaking with you. She says the baby's crying has stopped and she wants to apologize for her behavior yesterday. Tell her I'm busy. She's very persistent. And her husband controls the shipping routes we need for— I don't care. Dmitri's voice was steel. Tell her I'll meet with her at dinner. Right now, my son comes first. Ivan's eyebrows rose slightly, the only sign of surprise he'd allow. Understood. Also, the new nurse. Should I have Yuri run the background check? Yes. Full workup. I want to know everything about Kamdi Zora. Already done, boss. Ivan pulled out his phone and handed it over. Preliminary report came in an hour ago. Dmitri scanned the document. Born in Lagos, Nigeria. Medical degree from King's College, London. Worked in Moscow at the International Medical Clinic for 4 years. Husband, Chidi Okonkwo, Nigerian oil executive. Deceased. Daughters, Ada and Zara Okonkwo. Deceased. Car bombing 8 months ago, case unsolved. No criminal record. No suspicious connections, no red flags except— She was hired through an agency we traced back to Kozlov's people, Ivan said quietly. But there's no indication she knows that. It looks like she responded to a legitimate job posting. So she's a pawn. He's using her without her knowledge. Seems likely. Question is, for what purpose? Dmitri handed back the phone. That's what we're going to find out. Keep 2 guards outside this suite at all times. No one enters without my permission. And the nurse? She stays, for now. Dmitri's jaw tightened. But if she makes one wrong move, if she touches anything she shouldn't, if she so much as looks at Maxim wrong, you know what to do. Ivan nodded. Understood. After Ivan left, Dmitri returned to the bedroom. Kamdi had moved to the bed and laid Maxim between pillows to sleep. She looked up when Dmitri entered. Everything okay? Fine, just business. Dmitri sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb Maxim. I had my people check your background. I hope that doesn't offend you. I expected it. Kamdi's expression was unreadable. What did you find? That everything you told me is true. Your husband, your daughters, the bombing. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry for doing your job. In your world, trust is a liability. She touched Maxim's tiny hand. Did you also find that I have no connections to Ivan Kozlov? That I didn't know he arranged this job? Yes. Do you believe me now? Dmitri looked at her. Really looked at her. At the grief in her eyes, the maternal tenderness in her touch, the strength in her spine. Yes, I believe you. Then we have a problem. Kamdi's voice was quiet but firm. Because, if I'm here without knowing why, then I'm a liability to you. Ivan will expect me to do something, plant evidence, gather information, something. When I don't deliver, he'll know something's wrong. She was right, and Dmitri hated it. So what do? We figure out what he wants, and then we use me to feed him false information. Kamdi's smile was sharp. I may not be part of your world, Dmitri, but I'm not stupid. I've been around powerful men my whole life. My father was a judge in Lagos. My husband dealt with oligarchs daily. I know how these games work. This isn't a game. Dmitri's voice was harsh. If Ivan suspects you've turned on him, he'll kill you. Probably torture you first to send me a message. Then we make sure he doesn't suspect. Kamdi leaned forward, her eyes blazing. I have nothing left to lose, Dmitri. My family is dead. My old life is gone. If helping you and Maxim means risking my life, so be it. At least I'll die doing something that matters. The words hit Dmitri like a physical blow. She meant it. This woman who'd walked into his life less than 12 hours ago was willing to die for his son. You're insane, he said. Probably, Kamdi's smile softened. But so are you, if you think you can leave your world without help. So maybe we're insane together. Dmitri couldn't stop himself. He reached out and cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. I don't want you to die. Then teach me how to survive. Kamdi's hand came up to cover his. Tell me everything about Ivan Kozlov. Tell me what he wants from you. Tell me how to play this game so we all make it out alive. Dmitri should have pulled away, should have kept his distance, but instead he leaned forward until their faces were inches apart. "If we do this," he said quietly, "if you help me, I'll protect you. Whatever it takes, I promise." "I don't need protection. I need partnership." Kamdi's breath was warm against his lips. "Can you give me that? Can you treat me like an equal instead of a pawn?" Every instinct told Dmitri this was a mistake, that getting close to her would end in disaster. But looking into her eyes, seeing the same desperate need for purpose that drove him, he couldn't say no. "Yes," he whispered. "Partners." "Then kiss me." The words detonated between them. Dmitri's hand tightened on her face. "Kamdi, I know it's crazy, I know it's too fast, but I haven't felt anything in 8 months except pain and emptiness. And right now, holding your son, sitting here with you, I feel alive. So, kiss me, Dmitri Volkov, before I remember all the reasons this is a terrible idea." Dmitri closed the distance. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, both of them testing boundaries. But then Kamdi made a small sound in her throat, and everything ignited. Dmitri's hand slid into her hair, pulling her closer. Kamdi's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. They kissed like drowning people gasping for air, like two broken pieces finding a way to fit. It was desperate and hungry and absolutely insane, and neither of them could stop. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Maxim chose that moment to whimper in his sleep. The sound snapped them back to reality. "Christ," Dmitri muttered, pulling away. I'm sorry, that was... Don't." Kamdi's finger pressed against his lips. "Don't apologize. Don't make it less than what it was." "What was it?" "Hope." Kamdi smiled sadly. "For the first time since the bombing, I felt hope. Don't take that away from me." Dmitri kissed her finger, then pulled back completely. "We should focus on Maxim and on staying alive." "Agreed." Kamdi straightened her scrubs, her professional mask sliding back into place. "He'll be hungry again in a few hours. Until then, why don't you tell me about Ivan Kozlov?" So Dmitri did. He told her everything. About the territories they controlled, the business deals that bound them, the betrayals that turned them into enemies. He told her about the oil contracts worth billions, the weapons deals that armed conflicts across Eastern Europe, the politicians who took money from both sides. And Kamdi listened, asking sharp questions, connecting dots, until she understood the complicated web that trapped them both. By the time Maxim woke for his next feeding, they had a plan. A dangerous, probably doomed plan, but it was a plan nonetheless. Kamdi woke on the third morning to someone going through her medical bag. She sat up silently on the couch, watching as a young crew member, she thought his name was Alexei, carefully searched through her supplies. He moved quickly, professionally, clearly trained for this. "Looking for something?" Kamdi asked in Russian. Alexei spun, his hand moving to his waistband where she guessed a weapon was hidden. When he saw it was just her, he relaxed slightly. "Routine inspection," he said. "Mr. Volkov's orders." "At 6 in the morning?" "Security doesn't sleep." Alexei pulled out a small black device from his pocket, some kind of scanner maybe. He ran it over her bag, watching the readout. After a moment, he frowned. "Strange." "What's strange?" "Nothing. That's what's strange." He looked at her. Usually, bags from Kozlov's people have trackers, listening devices, something, but yours is clean. Kamdi's heart rate spiked, but she kept her expression neutral. "Maybe because I'm not one of Kozlov's people. I'm just a nurse who took a job." "Maybe." But Alexei didn't sound convinced. He continued searching, under the couch cushions, along the window frames, even checking the throw blanket she'd been using. Then he found it. A small silver disc, no bigger than a button, tucked into the seam of her medical bag where it attached to the strap. Alexei held it up to the light, his expression grim. "GPS tracker," he said. "High-end, military grade. Someone wants to know exactly where you are at all times." Kamdi's blood ran cold. "I didn't put that there." "I believe you." Alexei pocketed the device. But someone did, and I need to wake the boss. 5 minutes later, they were all in Dmitri's suite. Dmitri, Ivan, Yuri, Alexei, and Kamdi. Maxim was still asleep in his bassinet, blissfully unaware of the tension filling the room. "Show me," Dmitri said. Alexei placed the tracker on the coffee table. Dmitri's expression was stone, but Kamdi could see the rage simmering underneath. "How long has it been there?" Dmitri asked. "Hard to say without checking the battery, but given the model, I'd guess since she first boarded." Alexei looked at Kamdi. "Did you notice anyone accessing your bag before you came aboard?" "No. But I left it in my hotel room when I went to dinner the night before departure. I was told someone from the yacht would collect it." Kamdi's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "I didn't think anything of it." "That's when they planted it." Ivan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "The question is, why? What's the point of tracking her if she's already on the yacht? We're not exactly hard to find." "Unless they wanted to make sure she made it to Dmitri," Yuri suggested. "Confirmation she's in position." "For what?" Dmitri's voice was dangerous. "If they wanted to kill me, they've had 3 days. If they wanted information, she hasn't accessed anything sensitive. So what's the play?" Kamdi took a deep breath. "Maybe you should ask me." All eyes turned to her. She stood and walked to the coffee table, looking down at the tracker. "I want to check something," she said. "May I use your computer?" Dmitri nodded to Ivan, who pulled out a laptop and handed it over. Kamdi opened a browser and logged into an email account the men hadn't known she had. There were 3 new messages, all from the same address, ikconsultant@securemail.ru. She opened the first one. Subject, check-in required, Ms. Zora. Please confirm your arrival on the Volkov yacht and current status. We need verification of successful placement. Reply within 24 hours. The second, subject, urgent. Response needed, Ms. Zora. We have not received your confirmation. Please respond immediately, or we will assume the assignment has been compromised. The third, sent just an hour ago. Subject, final warning. Ms. Zora, this is your last opportunity to respond. If we do not hear from you within 6 hours, we will take corrective action. This is not a request. Kamdi turned the laptop so the men could see. "I've been getting these since I arrived. I ignored them because I thought they were spam from the hiring agency, but now we know Ivan's waiting for you to report in." Dmitri's jaw tightened. "And when you don't, he'll assume you've either failed or betrayed him." "What's corrective action?" Kamdi asked quietly. No one answered, but the looks exchanged between the men told her everything she needed to know. "We need to respond," Ivan said. "Buy ourselves time to figure out what he really wants." "What do I say?" Kamdi looked at Dmitri. "I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing here." Dmitri was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then he said, "Reply. Tell them you've successfully integrated into my household, that Maxim has accepted you as his nurse, that I'm beginning to trust you." "Is that true?" Kamdi asked. "Do you trust me?" Dmitri met her eyes. Yes. The admission hung in the air between them, weighted with everything they hadn't said. "Tell them I'm distracted," Dmitri continued. "Focused on Maxim, vulnerable. Tell them you're gaining access to my inner circle. Ask for further instructions." Kamdi nodded and began typing, the men watching over her shoulder. When she finished, the email read, "Assignment progressing as expected. Subject is trusting. Baby is dependent on my services. Security is relaxed around me due to perceived non-threat status. Subject is discussing business matters in my presence, awaiting next phase instructions." "Too obvious?" Kamdi asked. "No. Ivan will read between the lines. He'll know you're trying to sound competent without revealing you don't know what you're supposed to be doing." Dmitri nodded. "Send it." Kamdi hit send. They waited. 10 minutes later, a reply appeared. Subject, Phase 2 authorization, excellent work, Ms. Zora. Proceed to Phase 2, install surveillance package in subject's private office. Device will be delivered via supply run at Athens port. Arrival 1400 today. Retrieve from laundry staff, device hidden in linens, installation window. Tonight between 02 onlook 0400 when subject typically sleeps. Confirm receipt of instructions. Kamdi's hands went numb. "He wants me to bug your office." "Of course he does." Dmitri's laugh was bitter. "He's been trying to get into my private files for years. Financial records, contact lists, transaction histories. If he has those, he can destroy me and every ally I have. So we don't let her install it, Yuri said. Simple. No. Dmitri's eyes were calculating. We let her install it, but we feed Ivan exactly what we want him to know. Oh, this is getting good, isn't it? Dmitri's about to turn the tables on his enemy, and Comdy's right in the middle of it. If you're hooked on this story, and I know you are, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our intense romance stories. We post new content every week, and trust me, they're all this good. Now let's see how Dmitri's plan plays out. Ivan straightened. You want to use this? Boss, that's smart. Dmitri smiled, and it was the predator's grin that had built an empire. Ivan thinks he's playing us, but we're about to turn his own game against him. Comdy, reply. Tell him you confirm receipt of instructions and will proceed as ordered. Comdy typed the confirmation and sent it. Now what? She asked. Now we prepare. Dmitri turned to his men. Ivan, I want you to create a false set of files. Financial records showing I'm overextended, bad investments, cash flow problems. Make it look like I'm desperate. Include some names of contacts who are actually Ivan's people pretending to be mine. Make him think he's found gold. How detailed? Extremely. He needs to believe it's real. He'll verify everything, so make sure the paper trail holds up to scrutiny. Ivan nodded and left to begin work. Dmitri turned to Yuri. I want the surveillance device examined the moment it arrives. Check for any additional functions, explosive triggers, remote access, anything beyond simple audio/video. Then we modify it so we control what it records. Can do. Yuri headed out as well. That left Dmitri, Comdy, and Alexei. What about me? Comdy asked. You're going to be the perfect spy. Dmitri moved closer. Tonight, you'll install Ivan's device exactly as ordered. You'll appear nervous, rushed, like you're terrified of getting caught. The guards will see you, we'll make sure of it, but we'll pretend not to notice. That way, when Ivan checks with his sources on this yacht, they'll confirm you did the job. You have people on this yacht working for Ivan? Comdy's eyes widened. Of course. Just like he has people working for me in his organization. It's how the game works. Dmitri's hand came up to cup her face. But I need you to understand, if you do this, if you help me, you're crossing a line. Ivan will consider you a traitor. If he finds out the truth, he'll kill you, slowly. I crossed that line 3 days ago when I chose to trust you instead of him. Comdy leaned into his touch. I'm all in, Dmitri, whatever it takes. Then we teach you how to be a spy. The rest of the day was a crash course in espionage. Alexei showed Comdy how to move through the yacht without making noise, how to check for security cameras, how to plant a device quickly and efficiently. Even, once he'd finished the false files, coached her on maintaining a cover story, on lying convincingly, on reading her environment for threats. And Dmitri? Dmitri taught her how to think like him, how to see 3 moves ahead, how to turn every disadvantage into leverage. They worked through the day, breaking only when Maxim needed to be fed. Each time Comdy held the baby phone, she felt the weight of what they were planning. If anything went wrong, Maxim would lose his father. And she would lose what? This fragile thing growing between her and Dmitri? This hope she'd felt for the first time in 8 months? At 1400, the yacht docked in Athens. True to Ivan Kozlov's word, the supply delivery included fresh linens. Hidden inside a pillowcase, wrapped in plastic, was a device about the size of a USB drive. Yuri took it to his workshop. An hour later, he returned. It's clean, he reported. Just surveillance, audio and video, high-quality, encrypted transmission. I've modified it so we can control what it records and when it transmits. We can feed Ivan whatever you want, boss. Perfect. Dmitri looked at Comdy. Ready? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. At 02:30 that morning, Comdy crept through the yacht's darkened hallways. She wore all black, her feet bare to minimize sound. The modified surveillance device was tucked into her pocket. Dmitri's office was on the yacht's main deck, behind a door that looked like any other. It was locked, but Dmitri had given her the code. She punched it in and slipped inside. The office was masculine and luxurious. Dark wood, leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A massive desk dominated the space, covered in papers and computers. Comdy moved to the bookshelf as instructed, 3rd shelf, behind a row of books about Russian history. There was a small gap perfect for hiding the device. She slid it into place, made sure it was secure, and turned to leave, and came face to face with one of the guards she didn't recognize. "What are you doing here?" he demanded in Russian. Camdy's heart hammered, but she forced her face into embarrassment. "I couldn't sleep. I thought Mr. Volkov had some medical journals in here I could read. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. The office is off limits." The guard grabbed her arm, not gently. "I need to report this." "Please, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any harm. I used to read medical journals when I couldn't sleep, and I thought—" She let her voice break, let tears well in her eyes. "Please don't report me. I need this job. I can't lose another job." The guard hesitated, and Comedy saw the moment he decided she was just a stupid woman who'd made a mistake. "Fine. But if I catch you in here again, you're off this yacht, understood?" "Yes, thank you, and—" "I'm so sorry." He escorted her back to Dmitri's suite and shoved her through the door before walking away. Dmitri was waiting, Maxim asleep on his chest. When the door closed, he set his son in the bassinet and pulled Comedy into his arms. "You did perfectly," he whispered. Comedy was shaking. "He saw me, the guard. I told him I was looking for medical journals." "I know, he's one of Ivan's men. He'll report that he caught you in my office looking suspicious. That's exactly what we wanted." Dmitri pulled back to look at her face. "You were brilliant." "I was terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Dmitri's thumb wiped away a genuine tear that had escaped. "But you're safe now. It's done." Comedy collapsed against him, adrenaline crashing through her system. Dmitri held her, one hand stroking her back, until her breathing steadied. "How do you live like this?" she asked. "This constant tension, always looking over your shoulder?" "You get used to it. It becomes normal." Dmitri's voice was tired. "But I don't want Maxim to get used to it. I don't want this to be his normal." "Then we make sure it's not." Comedy pulled back. "We finish this. We get you out." "We get us out," Dmitri corrected. "You're part of this now, Comedy, whether you meant to be or not." She should have been scared, should have run, but looking at this dangerous man holding his infant son, looking at the life they might build if they survived, she wasn't scared. She was determined. "Partners," she said, echoing their conversation from the day before. "Partners," Dmitri agreed. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, deeper. A kiss that promised things neither of them were ready to say out loud. When they broke apart, Maxim was watching them with wide, curious eyes. "He's awake," Comedy laughed, "and probably hungry." "Again? Didn't you just feed him 2 hours ago?" "Growth spurt. Welcome to having an infant." Comedy picked up Maxim and settled into the chair. "You should sleep while you can. Tomorrow's going to be complicated." "Tomorrow we start feeding Ivan false information. Tomorrow we begin the endgame." "What's the endgame?" Dmitri's smile was cold. "Ivan thinks he's hunting me, but he's about to find out what happens when the prey turns predator." As Comedy fed Maxim and Dmitri finally allowed himself to sleep, neither of them knew that on another yacht 10 miles away, Ivan Kozlov was watching a live feed from the device now hidden in Dmitri's office. Or that the guard who'd caught Comedy had already reported to Ivan that she'd seemed genuinely surprised and embarrassed, not like a trained spy at all. Or that Ivan was beginning to suspect his perfect plan was going very, very wrong. The war was about to begin, and the Mediterranean was about to run red. The morning of day 4 started with gunfire. Dmitri woke to the sound of automatic weapons and Yuri's voice screaming through the intercom. "Boss, we're under attack! Get to the safe room now!" He was on his feet instantly, gun in hand, crossing to where Comedy had fallen asleep in the chair with Maxim. "Get up, we need to move." Comedy's eyes snapped open, immediately alert despite the exhaustion. "What's happening?" "Ivan's making his move." Dmitri scooped up Maxim, who'd started crying at the commotion. "There's a safe room below deck. Follow me and stay low." Another burst of gunfire, closer this time. The yacht lurched as something, a grenade maybe, exploded near the hull. Dmitri grabbed Comedy's hand and pulled her toward a hidden panel in the bedroom wall. He pressed his palm against it, and it slid open to reveal a narrow staircase leading down. "Go," he ordered. They descended into darkness, Maxim's cries echoing in the confined space. At the bottom, another door, this one requiring both a code and a fingerprint. Dmitri punched in numbers while more explosions rocked the yacht above them. The door opened into a reinforced room about the size of a large closet. Emergency supplies lined the walls: water, food, weapons, communication equipment. Dmitri pulled Kamdi inside and sealed the door behind them. "What about your men?" Kamdi asked, trying to calm Maxim. "They know the protocol. Hold the attackers off as long as possible, then retreat to their own safe positions." Dmitri moved to the communication panel and flipped switches. Screens flickered to life, showing security camera feeds from various parts of the yacht. What Kamdi saw made her blood run cold. At least a dozen men in tactical gear had boarded the yacht. They moved with military precision, clearing rooms, executing anyone who got in their way. She watched in horror as one of the young crew members, a girl who couldn't have been more than 20, was shot in the hallway outside the galley. "Oh God," Kamdi whispered. "Don't look." Dmitri tried to turn her away from the screens, but she resisted. "These people are dying because of us. Because I planted that device. They're dying because Ivan Kozlov is a monster who doesn't care about collateral damage." Dmitri's voice was hard. "This isn't your fault, Kamdi. This was always going to happen. He was just looking for an excuse." On the screens, Dmitri's security team was fighting back. Yuri and 3 others had taken position in the main salon, using overturned furniture as cover. They were outnumbered but holding their ground. Then one of the screens showed something that made Dmitri's blood freeze. Ivan Kozlov himself, stepping onto the yacht's main deck. He was younger than Kamdi had imagined, mid-30s with sharp features and cold eyes. He wore an expensive suit despite the violence around him, like this was just another business meeting. "Find Volkov," Ivan said into a radio. His voice came through the audio feed, calm and controlled. "And find the nurse. I want them both alive. The baby too." Kamdi's arms tightened around Maxim. "He knows I'm with you." "Of course he knows. The tracker, the emails, the guard who caught you last night. He told Ivan you seemed nervous, guilty." Ivan put it together. Dmitri was already moving, pulling weapons from the wall. "Which means the safe room isn't safe anymore. He'll know about it. He helped design this yacht 3 years ago when we were still allies." "Then what do? We fight our way out." Dmitri handed her a gun. "Do you know how to use this?" Kamdi looked at the weapon like it was a snake. "No, I'm a nurse. I save lives. I don't—" "You're about to learn." Dmitri moved behind her, positioning her hands correctly on the grip. "Safety here. Point and shoot. Aim for center mass. Don't hesitate because they won't." "Dmitri, I can't." "You can. You will. Because if you don't, they'll kill Maxim in front of us to make a point before they kill us too." His voice softened. "I need you to be strong, Kamdi. Can you do that?" Kamdi looked down at Maxim, still crying in her arms. Thought about Ada and Zara, about losing them to senseless violence. Thought about this baby who'd given her purpose when she had none. "Yes," she said. "I can be strong." "Good." Dmitri kissed her forehead quickly. "Stay behind me. If anything happens to me, there's an emergency escape. A Zodiac boat in a concealed compartment at the stern. The code is 1803. Maxim's birthday. Take him and run. I'm not leaving you. You will if I tell you to." Dmitri's eyes were fierce. "Promise me, Kamdi." "Promise you'll save my son." Kamdi wanted to argue, but the look on his face stopped her. "I promise." Dmitri nodded and moved to the door. He pressed his ear against it, listening. After a moment, he looked back at her. "They're right outside. 3, maybe 4 men. When I open this door, there's going to be shooting. Keep Maxim's head covered and stay low. Ready?" Kamdi's heart was trying to pound out of her chest, but she nodded. Dmitri opened the door. The violence that followed was brutal and efficient. Dmitri moved like a weapon himself. 2 shots, 2 bodies dropping. A 3rd man got a shot off that grazed Dmitri's shoulder, but Dmitri spun and put 3 rounds in his chest before he could fire again. The 4th man grabbed Kamdi. She didn't think, just raised the gun Dmitri had given her and pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked her back and her aim was wild, but one of the bullets caught the man in the leg. He went down screaming. Dmitri finished him with a shot to the head. "Good," Dmitri said, breathing hard. Blood was spreading across his shirt from the shoulder wound. "Now move. Stay close." They ran through the yacht's corridors, Dmitri leading them toward the stern. They encountered 2 more of Ivan's men. Both died before Kamdi fully processed what was happening. Then they reached the main deck and came face to face with Ivan Kozlov himself. He had a gun pointed at Yuri's head. Yuri was on his knees, beaten and bloody, but still alive. Dmitri, Ivan's smile was cold. So good of you to join us. And you brought the nurse. Excellent. Dmitri's gun was up, aimed at Ivan's head. Let him go. I don't think so, you see. Yuri here has been very loyal to you. It would be a shame to waste that loyalty. Ivan pressed his gun harder against Yuri's temple. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down your weapon. Then you're going to tell me where you've hidden the real financial records. The ones showing all your offshore accounts, your contact networks, everything. I gave you access to my files. You have what you want. I have garbage, fake numbers designed to make me think you're weak. Ivan's voice hardened. Did you really think I wouldn't verify? That I wouldn't notice the accounts were shells, the contacts were plants? You insulted my intelligence, Dmitri. You insulted mine by thinking I'd hand over my empire without a fight. Then Yuri dies. Ivan started to squeeze the trigger. Wait! Kamdi stepped forward, Maxim crying in her arms. I'll tell you where the real files are. Both men looked at her in shock. Kamdi, no, Dmitri started. I was in his office, Kamdi continued, her voice steady despite her terror. When I planted the device, I saw him access a hidden safe, behind the painting of St. Petersburg. The combination is 28 to 1191, his mother's birthday. Ivan's eyes narrowed. Is this true? Yes, Kamdi lied. She had no idea if there was even a painting of St. Petersburg in Dmitri's office, but she'd seen Dmitri's micro-expression when she mentioned his mother, a flash of pain and recognition. She was gambling that Ivan had seen it too. Ivan lowered his gun from Yuri's head slightly. Check it, he ordered one of his men via radio. They waited in tense silence. Maxim's cries were the only sound except for the distant groans of injured men. Finally, Ivan's radio crackled. Boss, there's no painting in the office, just books and... Ivan's face twisted with rage. He swung his gun toward Kamdi. You lying? Dmitri fired. The bullet hit Ivan in the shoulder, spinning him around. His shot went wild, shattering a window. Yuri used the distraction to roll away and grab a dropped weapon. Suddenly, it was chaos again. Dmitri grabbed Kamdi and ran for the stern. Behind them, gunfire erupted as Yuri and the remaining security team engaged Ivan's men. They reached the concealed compartment. Dmitri punched in the code 1803, and the panel slid open to reveal a Zodiac boat with an outboard motor. Get in, Dmitri ordered, already lowering it to the water with a pulley system. What about Yuri? Your men? They know the plan. They'll scatter and regroup. Dmitri helped her into the boat, then climbed in himself despite the blood still flowing from his shoulder. Hold on to Maxim. This is going to be rough. He started the motor, and they shot away from the yacht just as another explosion rocked the vessel. Kamdi looked back to see flames rising from the main deck. Oh God, she whispered, all those people. Don't look back. Dmitri's voice was strained with pain. Only forward now. They sped across the dark Mediterranean waters, the burning yacht shrinking behind them. Maxim had finally quieted, shocked into silence by all the noise and chaos. After 20 minutes, Dmitri started slowing down. His face was pale, and Kamdi realized he was losing too much blood. Let me look at that shoulder, she said. Later. We need to get to shore first. You're going into shock. Let me at least stop the bleeding. Kamdi carefully laid Maxim in the bottom of the boat and moved to Dmitri. She tore off part of her shirt and pressed it against his wound. Dmitri hissed in pain but didn't pull away. The bullet's still in there, Kamdi said after examining it. You need a hospital. Can't. Ivan will have people watching every hospital in the area, but I have a contact, a doctor in a village about 30 miles from here. He doesn't ask questions. Can you make it that far? I have to. Dmitri's hand covered hers where she was pressing the makeshift bandage. Thank you for what you said back there. About my mother's birthday. I didn't know if there was actually a safe. There isn't, but Ivan believed it because he knows I'm sentimental about her. It bought us the seconds we needed. Dmitri's eyes searched her face. You saved our lives, Kamdi. You saved mine first. She leaned forward and kissed him gently, tasting salt water and blood and fear. We're partners, remember? We save each other. Holy wow, right? I hope your heart is still racing from that. This is why I love telling these intense mafia romance stories. The stakes are real, the danger is palpable, and the love? It's worth dying for. If you felt that adrenaline rush with me, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you thought of Comdy's quick thinking. Now let's see if they can actually make it to safety. They reached shore as dawn was breaking. Dmitri directed them to a small hidden cove where he beached the Zodiac. By then, he could barely stand. Comdy grabbed their emergency supplies and Maxim then helped Dmitri stumble up the rocky beach to a dirt road. She had no idea where they were, somewhere on the Greek coast, she assumed. Dmitri pulled out a phone he'd grabbed from the safe room and made a call. He spoke in rapid Russian, then hung up. 10 minutes, he said. My contact will be here in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like hours. Comdy kept pressure on Dmitri's wound while Maxim fussed in her lap. In the growing light, she could see just how pale Dmitri had become. Stay with me, she said. Don't you dare die on me, Dmitri Volkov. Not planning on it. His smile was weak. We still have so much to do. Haven't even taken you on a proper date yet. A proper date? You're thinking about dating right now? Always. Dmitri's hand found hers. When this is over, when we're safe, I'm going to take you somewhere beautiful, somewhere quiet. Just you, me, and Maxim. We'll watch sunsets and eat good food and pretend we're normal people. I'd like that. Comdy felt tears burning her eyes. I'd like that very much. A van appeared on the dirt road, kicking up dust. An older Greek man jumped out, took one look at Dmitri, and started barking orders in Greek. His name is Andreas, Dmitri translated weakly. He's going to take us to his clinic. It's hidden in the mountains. We'll be safe there. Andreas and Comdy got Dmitri into the back of the van, which had been converted into a mobile medical unit. There were supplies, equipment, even a small surgical setup. As Andreas drove, Comdy worked on Dmitri's shoulder. She numbed the area with local anesthetic from Andreas's supplies, then carefully extracted the bullet with forceps. It was lodged near the bone but hadn't hit anything vital. You're good at this, Dmitri said through gritted teeth. Neonatal ICU nurses know trauma care too. We handle emergencies. Comdy cleaned the wound and started stitching. This is going to scar. Add it to the collection. Dmitri's eyes were closed now, his breathing shallow. By the time they reached Andreas's clinic, a small building disguised as a farmhouse in the mountains, Dmitri had passed out from blood loss and shock. Andreas helped Comdy get him inside and onto a proper surgical table. For the next 2 hours, Comdy worked. She cleaned and dressed the wound properly, started an IV to combat the blood loss, administered antibiotics to prevent infection. Andreas assisted, his weathered hands still steady and sure. Finally, when Dmitri was stable and sleeping, Comdy collapsed into a chair next to him. Maxim was asleep in a makeshift crib Andreas had rigged up from a drawer lined with blankets. You love him, Andreas said in heavily accented English. It wasn't a question. I barely know him, Comdy protested weakly. Sometimes that doesn't matter. The heart knows what it knows. Andreas handed her a glass of water. Rest. I'll watch them both. You've earned it. But Comdy couldn't rest. She sat there holding Dmitri's hand, watching his chest rise and fall, and thinking about how completely her life had changed in 4 days. 4 days ago, she'd been a broken woman with nothing to live for. Now she was falling for a Russian mafia boss who made her feel alive for the first time since her family died. Now she was caring for his infant son like he was her own. Now she was on the run from people who wanted to kill them all. It was insane. It was terrifying. It was exactly where she wanted to be. Dmitri woke as the sun was setting. His first words were, Maxim? Safe. Sleeping. Right there. Comdy pointed to the drawer crib. You? Also safe. Thanks to you. Dmitri tried to sit up and winced. How bad? Bad enough. You'll need to take it easy for at least a week. No fighting, no running, definitely no more yacht explosions. A weak smile crossed Dmitri's face. Can't promise the last one, but I'll try. He looked at her seriously. Yuri? Comdy shook her head. Andreas made some calls. 3 of your men escaped. Yuri wasn't one of them, I'm sorry. Dmitri's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He died protecting us. I'll make sure his family is taken care of. What about Ivan? Also survived. Andreas's contacts say he got away before the yacht exploded. He's wounded but alive. Dmitri's hand found hers, which means this isn't over. He'll come for us again. Then we prepare, we plan, we figure out how to end this once and for all. Kamdi squeezed his hand. Because I'm not losing you, Dmitri. I've lost too many people I care about. I won't lose you too. You care about me? Dmitri's smile was warmer now. Apparently I'm an idiot who falls for dangerous criminals. Or you're a brave woman who sees past what I've done to who I'm trying to become. Dmitri pulled her closer. Kiss me, Kamdi Zora. Kiss me and remind me why survival is worth it. Kamdi leaned down and kissed him, gently because of his injuries, but with all the emotion she'd been holding back. When they broke apart, both had tears in their eyes. When this is over, Dmitri whispered, I'm going to marry you. Kamdi laughed through her tears. You haven't even asked. I'm asking now. Kamdi Zora, when we survive this, when Ivan is dealt with, when we can finally breathe, will you marry me? She should have said it was too fast, should have reminded him they'd known each other less than a week, should have listed all the reasons this was insane. Instead, she said, yes. Maxim chose that moment to wake up and cry, and they both laughed at the timing. Your son has opinions about our engagement, Kamdi said, moving to pick up the baby. He's just hungry, and probably making sure we remember he's the most important person here. Dmitri watched as Kamdi settled into a chair to feed Maxim. You're beautiful, you know that. Even covered in blood and dirt and exhaustion, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. That's the blood loss talking. It's the truth. Dmitri's eyes were serious. I know this is crazy. I know we barely know each other. But in 4 days, you've become more important to me than anything I've built in 38 years. You and Maxim, you're my everything now. Kamdi felt her heart crack open. You're my everything too. Both of you. They stayed like that, Kamdi feeding Maxim, Dmitri watching them with love in his eyes, while Andreas stood guard and the mountains protected them from the world. For one perfect moment, they were just a family. Tomorrow, they'd start planning their survival. Tomorrow, they'd figure out how to end Ivan Kozlov's threat forever. Tomorrow, they'd face reality again. But tonight, they had each other, and that was enough. Kamdi woke to find Dmitri already awake, staring at the ceiling with that calculating look she was learning to recognize. His hand was still holding hers. You didn't sleep, she said. Couldn't. Thinking too much. Dmitri turned his head to look at her. Andreas made some calls while you were sleeping. About your husband's death. Kamdi's body went rigid. What about it? The car bombing in Moscow. It wasn't random gang violence. Dmitri's voice was careful, like he was approaching a wounded animal. Andreas has contacts in the FSB, Russian security services. They've been investigating a series of targeted killings disguised as accidents. Your husband's name was on the list. That's impossible. Chidi was just an oil executive. He had nothing to do with... He had everything to do with it. Dmitri sat up carefully, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. Chidi Okonkwo wasn't just an executive, Kamdi. He was brokering deals between Nigerian oil interests and Russian oligarchs, deals that cut out certain key players, including Ivan Kozlov. The room tilted. No, Chidi would have told me. Would he? When you were working night shifts, caring for your daughters during the day, when would he have found time to tell you he was playing in a world where billion-dollar deals get people killed? Dmitri's hand tightened on hers. I'm sorry, Kamdi, but the bomb that killed your family wasn't meant for someone else. It was meant for all of them. Kamdi pulled her hand away and stood, her legs shaky. You're lying. I wish I was. Dmitri pulled out a tablet Andreas had given him and pulled up files. Look. She didn't want to, but she forced herself to read. Reports, documents, transaction records showing Chidi's involvement in deals worth hundreds of millions, communications between Nigerian oil ministers and Russian businessmen. And then, photos of Chidi meeting with men Kamdi didn't recognize, men with hard eyes and expensive suits. He was working with Ivan, Dmitri said quietly, making deals that cut me out of certain territories. Then he got greedy, tried to renegotiate his percentage. Ivan doesn't negotiate. He eliminates. Kamdi's hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the tablet. My daughters. Ada and Zara, they died because of money? They died because Ivan Kozlov is a monster who doesn't care about collateral damage. Dmitri stood and moved to her despite his injury. I'm so sorry, Kamdi. I know this changes everything. It changes nothing. Kamdi's voice was hollow. They're still dead. Learning why doesn't bring them back. But it means Ivan didn't just burn down my yacht and try to kill us. He's the man who destroyed your life 8 months ago. Dmitri turned her to face him. Which means when we go after him, we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for justice, for your daughters. Kamdi looked up at him and something dark and fierce rose in her chest. You're going to help me kill him. Yes, when the time comes. I promise you that. Dmitri cupped her face. But first we need leverage. We need proof of what he did. Evidence that will either let us destroy him legally or give us the ammunition to end him ourselves. How? Andreas has an FBI contact, an agent who's been building a case against Ivan for years. If we give them what they need, financial records, witness testimony, proof of his crimes, they'll take him down. And if the FBI can't touch him? Dmitri's smile was cold. Then I will, personally. Kamdi nodded slowly. The grief and rage were mixing into something sharp and focused. For 8 months she'd blamed herself for not being in that car, for surviving when her family didn't. Now she knew there was nothing she could have done. This was Ivan's crime, and Ivan would pay. What do you need from me? She asked. Right now, I need you to take care of Maxim while I make some calls, set up meetings, start building our case. Dmitri pulled her into his arms carefully. And tonight, when he's asleep, I need you to let me hold you. Let me remind you that you're not alone in this anymore. Kamdi buried her face in his chest and breathed him in, sweat and blood and something distinctly Dmitri. I love you. I know it's insane. I know it's too fast, but I love you. I love you too. Dmitri kissed the top of her head. And Kamdi, your daughters, I wish I could have met them. I wish things had been different. But I promise you this, Maxim will grow up knowing about his sisters, about Ada and Zara, about the brave woman who loved them. The tears came then. Kamdi sobbed against Dmitri's chest while he held her, whispering comfort in Russian and English. Behind them, Maxim started crying too, and somehow that made it worse and better at the same time. When Kamdi finally pulled away, her eyes were red but clear. Okay, let's make the calls, let's build the case, and let's end Ivan Kozlov once and for all. You're still with me, right? Because we're heading into the most intense part of this story, when Kamdi and Dmitri stop running and start hunting. If you love a good revenge arc mixed with your romance, you're going to want to hear every word of what happens next. Stay tuned. That afternoon, while Dmitri made calls from Andreas's secure line and Maxim napped, Kamdi found herself in the clinic's small kitchen with Andreas. You're handling this well, the old Greek doctor said, handing her coffee. I'm a nurse. We're trained to compartmentalize. Kamdi took the cup gratefully. Fall apart later. Function now. That's not what I meant. Andreas leaned against the counter. You found out your husband's death wasn't random, that he kept dangerous secrets, that he put you and your children at risk. Most women would be angry. I am angry. Kamdi's hand tightened on the cup. But mostly at Ivan. Chidi, he made mistakes. He played a game he didn't understand. But he loved Ada and Zara. He loved me. He wouldn't have put us in danger intentionally. Are you sure about that? The question hit like a slap. Kamdi looked up sharply. What do you mean? Andreas sighed. I've lived a long time, girl. I've seen men like your husband before. Good men who convince themselves they can play in dangerous waters and keep their families safe. They tell themselves the risk is worth the reward, that they'll quit before it gets too dangerous. But they never do. The money, the power, the thrill, it becomes addictive. So you're saying it's Chidi's fault? I'm saying it's complicated. Ivan killed them. Ivan is responsible. But your husband made choices that brought Ivan's attention. Both things can be true. Andreas poured himself coffee. The question is, can you forgive him? Can you forgive Chidi for being human and fallible? Kamdi thought about her husband, about the man who'd made her laugh, who'd been terrified when they found out she was pregnant with twins, who'd cried the first time he held Ada and Zara. who'd been so proud when they took their first steps. "I forgive him," she said finally, "because holding on to anger won't bring them back, and because I need all my rage focused on Ivan right now." "Good," Andreas nodded approvingly. "Then you'll survive this. You and Dmitri both. What makes you so sure?" "Because you love each other, real love, not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that grows in darkness and blood and impossible choices. That kind of love? It's stronger than bullets, stronger than empires, stronger than men like Ivan Kozlov." Kamdi smiled despite herself. "You're a romantic, Andreas." "I'm old. It amounts to the same thing." Andreas gestured toward the other room where Dmitri was still making calls. "He's different with you, you know. I've known Dmitri for 15 years, patched him up more times than I can count. But I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you and that baby. He's trying to be better. For Maxim. He's trying to be better for you too. Don't underestimate what that means for a man like him." Andreas finished his coffee and rinsed the cup. "Now, I'm going to check on my regular patients in town. You'll be safe here. The perimeter alarms are active and Dmitri has weapons within reach, but try not to need them, yes?" After Andreas left, Kamdi went to check on Maxim. The baby was still sleeping, his little fists curled beside his face. She touched his soft hair gently, then turned to find Dmitri in the doorway watching her. "He's perfect," she said. "He has good taste in women." Dmitri crossed to her, moving more easily now despite his injury. "The FBI agent will be here tomorrow morning. Andreas is arranging a meeting in a neutral location. We'll bring everything we have, financial records, my testimony, your story about Chidi. It should be enough to start building a case." "And if it's not?" "Then we disappear. New identities, new life. Somewhere Ivan can't reach us." Dmitri's hand came up to cup her face. "I have money hidden in accounts he doesn't know about. Enough to start over properly. What about your empire? Everything you built?" "Means nothing if I lose you, if I lose Maxim." Dmitri's thumb stroked her cheek. "I told you, you're my everything now. The rest, let it burn." Kamdi turned her face to kiss his palm. "Make love to me." Dmitri's eyes darkened. "Kamdi, I need this. I need you. I need to feel alive and real and connected to something good." She stepped closer. "We might die tomorrow, or next week, or next month, but right now we're alive. So make love to me, Dmitri Volkov. Show me what we're fighting for." Dmitri didn't need more convincing. He pulled her into a kiss that was all hunger and promise, his hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer. Kamdi's hands moved over his chest, careful of his injury but desperate to touch him. They stumbled toward the small bedroom Andreas had given them, leaving a trail of clothes. Dmitri kicked the door shut behind them and pressed Kamdi against it, his mouth on her neck, her collarbone, the swell of her breasts. "God, you're beautiful," he breathed. "So fucking beautiful." Kamdi pulled him toward the bed, and they fell onto it together, limbs tangling, hands exploring. When Dmitri finally moved over her, his eyes met hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "I love you," he said. "Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever the future holds. I love you, Kamdi. I love you too." She pulled him down into another kiss. "Now stop talking and make love to me properly." So he did. They made love slowly at first, learning each other's bodies, discovering what made the other gasp and moan, then faster, more desperate, chasing pleasure like it was salvation. When Kamdi came apart in his arms, she cried his name like a prayer, and when Dmitri followed, shuddering above her, she held him like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied and alive. Dmitri's hand traced lazy patterns on her skin. "Worth fighting for?" he asked softly. "Absolutely." Kamdi kissed his shoulder. "Now sleep. Tomorrow we start the real fight." But neither of them slept well. In the darkness, both of them thought about Ada and Zara, about Maxim, about the life they were trying to build from ashes. And in Moscow, Ivan Kozlov was planning his next move. The FBI agent's name was Sarah Chen, and she was not what Kamdi expected. Young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She met them in a safe house Andreas had arranged, a cabin deeper in the mountains. Mr. Volkov, she said, shaking Dmitri's hand, I've been wanting to meet you for 3 years. The feeling isn't mutual. Dmitri's smile was cold. But apparently we have a common enemy. Ivan Kozlov has been untouchable for too long. He's got connections in the Russian government, in law enforcement, even in our own FBI. Every time we get close, evidence disappears, witnesses die. Sarah turned to Kamdi. You must be Ms. Zora. I'm sorry about your family. Can you help us? Kamdi asked directly. Depends. What do you have? For the next hour, Dmitri laid out everything, financial records showing Ivan's illegal transactions, names of his connections, evidence of crimes ranging from money laundering to murder. Then Kamdi told her story about Chidi, about the bombing, about Ivan's attempts to use her against Dmitri. Sarah listened carefully, taking notes on a tablet. When they finished, she sat back and let out a long breath. This is good, she said, really good. With this, we can bring RICO charges. Wire fraud, money laundering, multiple counts of murder for hire. If we can get an arrest warrant, we can freeze his assets, dismantle his organization. How long? Dmitri asked. To get the warrant? Maybe a week to actually execute it? Sarah shook her head. Ivan's in hiding since the yacht explosion. We'd need to locate him first. I can help with that, Dmitri said. I know his patterns, his safe houses, where he goes when he's wounded and needs to lie low. Can I just say something? Kamdi interrupted. Both Dmitri and Sarah looked at her. This is all assuming Ivan sits back and waits for the FBI to arrest him, but he won't. He's coming for us, and he's coming soon. She's right, Dmitri admitted. Ivan's not the type to wait. He'll want to finish this personally. Sarah frowned. Then we need to protect you. Put you in witness protection until... No, Dmitri's voice was flat. We use it. We let Ivan come. And when he does, we end him. Mr. Volkov, I can't sanction... You don't have to sanction anything. Just give me 24 hours. I'll flush Ivan out, get him somewhere you can arrest him with witnesses and evidence, but I need to use myself as bait. Absolutely not, Kamdi said. Dmitri, that's the only way. Dmitri looked at her. Ivan wants me. Wants revenge for making him look weak. If I offer myself up, he can't resist. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she said, What did you have in mind? The plan was simple and insane in equal measure. Dmitri would leak his location through one of Ivan's moles, make it look like a security slip-up. Ivan would come with a small team. He'd want to keep this personal, not risk drawing too much attention. They'd meet in an abandoned resort Andreas knew about, a place with enough space for a tactical team to hide, but isolated enough that Ivan would feel safe. And when Ivan made his move, the FBI would record everything, his confession, his attempt at murder, all of it. Then they'd move in, arrest him, and finally end his reign of terror. It'll work, Dmitri said when they were back at Andreas's clinic preparing. Ivan's arrogant. He'll think he's walking into a trap for me, not realizing it's a trap for him. Or he'll bring 50 men and kill us all, Kamdi pointed out. She was packing a medical bag. If people got hurt, she wanted to be ready. Then we'll die fighting. Dmitri pulled her into his arms. But we won't die, I promise you that. You can't promise that. Watch me. He kissed her deeply. We're going to survive this. We're going to get married. We're going to raise Maxim together. We're going to have the life we should have had. I believe that. I want to believe it too. Then do. Dmitri rested his forehead against hers. Believe in us, Kamdi. Believe we're strong enough to win. Maxim chose that moment to cry from the other room, and they both laughed. He has terrible timing, Kamdi said. He's making sure we remember why we're doing this. Dmitri kissed her once more, then let her go. Go feed him. I need to make the call to bait Ivan. That night, while Dmitri finalized the details with Sarah Chen and her tactical team, Kamdi sat with Andreas in the kitchen again. Tomorrow, she said quietly. This ends tomorrow. One way or another, Andreas agreed. He was cleaning an old rifle. Apparently even peaceful Greek doctors in the mountains kept weapons. You scared? Terrified, but also ready. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. You've been running for 8 months, from your grief, from your memories, from yourself. Tomorrow you stop running. You face the monster that destroyed your life. That's terrifying and freeing at the same time. What if we lose? Then you'll die knowing you fought back, knowing you loved again, knowing you protected that baby like he was your own. Andreas looked up at her. That's not nothing, Comedy, that's everything. Comedy wiped away tears she didn't realize were falling. Thank you. For everything. For helping us. Dmitri's helped me more times than I can count over the years. This is just me paying back an old debt. Andreas smiled. But also, I like you. You're good for him. You make him human again. He makes me human too. They sat in comfortable silence until Dmitri came to find her. His expression was grim. It's set, he said. Ivan took the bait. He'll be at the resort tomorrow at noon. Then we should sleep, Comedy said. We'll need our strength. But again, neither of them slept much. They lay in bed holding each other, listening to Maxim's quiet breathing from the crib beside them, and thinking about everything that could go wrong. If something happens to me, Dmitri said in the darkness, Sarah will help you and Maxim disappear. New identities, protected status. You'll be safe. Nothing's going to happen to you. But if it does, then I'll raise Maxim to know his father was brave, was trying to be better, was loved. Comedy kissed his chest. But you're not going to die tomorrow, Dmitri Volkov. You're going to marry me, remember? I remember. His arms tightened around her. God, I love you. I love you too. Now shut up and let me sleep. The abandoned resort had clearly been beautiful once. White stone buildings overlooking the Aegean Sea, gardens gone wild with neglect, a dry fountain in the center of a cracked courtyard. Now it was a perfect place for an ambush. Sarah Chen's tactical team was hidden throughout the buildings, FBI agents in position, ready to move. But until Ivan incriminated himself, they had to wait. Had to let Dmitri play out the confrontation. Comedy and Maxim were in an armored van 200 yards away, watching via a video feed Sarah had set up. She'd wanted to be there, but Dmitri had refused to let her or the baby anywhere near the danger. He's here, one of Sarah's agents said through the comm system. On the screen, Comedy watched Ivan Kozlov arrive with 6 men. He looked thinner than in the photos, his shoulder still bandaged from where Dmitri had shot him, but his eyes were alert, scanning for threats. Dmitri stepped out of one of the buildings, hands visible. No weapon drawn. Ivan, he said. Thank you for coming. Ivan laughed. Did you really think I wouldn't? Did you think you could betray me, destroy my operation, make me look weak, and I'd just let you walk away? I hoped you'd be smart enough to cut your losses, move on, build something new. Move on? You destroyed $1 billion operation. You killed 12 of my men. You stole my revenge. Ivan's voice rose. I was going to use that nurse to humiliate you, to destroy you slowly. But she chose you instead. She ruined everything. Comedy didn't ruin anything. She saved me, saved my son, showed me there's more to life than this war we've been fighting. How touching. Ivan pulled a gun. But I don't care about your redemption arc, Dmitri. I care about watching you die. About taking everything from you the way you took everything from me. I took nothing that wasn't already rotting. Dmitri's voice was calm. Your empire was built on fear and murder. It was always going to fall. I just accelerated the process. Then let me accelerate your death. Ivan aimed at Dmitri's head. In the van, Comedy gasped. Sarah, do something! Not yet. We need him to admit to specific crimes. Sarah was listening intently to the feed. Come on, Volkov, get him talking. On screen, Dmitri said, Before you kill me, tell me one thing. The car bombing in Moscow. 8 months ago. Chidi Okonkwo and his twin daughters. That was you, wasn't it? Ivan smiled. The Nigerian? Yes. He thought he could renegotiate our deal. Thought his connections made him untouchable. I showed him otherwise. And the children? They were collateral damage? They were a message. Cross me, lose everything. Ivan's expression hardened. Their mother works for you now, doesn't she? The nurse, Kamdi Zora. Tell me, does she know you're in the same business that killed her family? She knows everything, and she's still choosing to fight beside me. That's the difference between you and me, Ivan. I inspire loyalty. You inspire fear, and fear always breaks eventually. We'll see about that, Ivan gestured to his men. Kill him! FBI, drop your weapons! Sarah's team burst from their hiding spots, surrounding Ivan's men. Chaos erupted. Ivan's team opened fire. Dmitri dove behind cover. FBI agents returned fire with precision. They were aiming to wound, not kill, needing Ivan and his men alive for trial. In the van, Kamdi watched in horror as bullets flew. She clutched Maxim tighter, praying the baby wouldn't wake up. Then Ivan did something no one expected. Instead of fighting or running, he broke away from the firefight and sprinted toward the van. "He's going for Kamdi!" an agent shouted. Sarah cursed and drew her weapon, but Ivan was fast. He reached the van before anyone could stop him and yanked open the door. "Hello, Ms. Zora," he said, pointing his gun at her. "Get out, slowly, and bring the baby." Kamdi's heart was jackhammering, but she forced herself to stay calm. She climbed out carefully, holding Maxim protectively. "I know he means something to Dmitri," Kamdi said steadily, "but he means something to me, too. So if you're going to kill him, kill me first. Make it quick. Don't let him watch." Ivan's eyes narrowed. "You'd die for another woman's child?" "He's my son now." "In every way that matters, so yes, I'd die for him." "How noble!" Ivan pressed the gun against her temple. "Then let's see if Dmitri loves you enough to surrender." He dragged Kamdi back toward the courtyard, using her and Maxim as shields. The firefight had stopped. Sarah's team couldn't risk hitting the hostages. Dmitri emerged from cover, his face pale. "Let her go, Ivan. This is between us." "Nothing is between us anymore. You destroyed everything." Ivan's voice was unhinged now. "So I'm going to destroy everything you love. I'm going to kill her, kill the baby, make you watch, then I'll kill you last." Kamdi felt Maxim start to wake up against her chest. He let out a whimper. The sound seemed to penetrate the chaos, the violence, the rage, and something shifted in Ivan's eyes. "Wait," he said, lowering the gun slightly. He looked at Maxim. "How old is he?" 3 months, Kamdi said quietly. "Same age as my daughter was, when she died, 5 years ago." Ivan's voice cracked. "Her mother, my wife, she couldn't handle the life. The violence. She killed herself, killed our daughter too. I came home to find them both in the bathtub, dead." The confession hung in the air. Even Dmitri looked shocked. "I'm sorry," Kamdi said, and she meant it. "I'm so sorry that happened to you." "Don't." Ivan's hand was shaking now. "Don't be kind to me. Don't humanize me. I'm the monster. I'm the one who kills babies and destroys families. That's who I am." "It doesn't have to be," Kamdi said softly. "You could stop. You could walk away, make different choices." "I'm too far gone." Ivan looked down at his gun. "Too much blood on my hands." "You're not too far gone until you're dead," Dmitri said quietly. "I know because I was there too. I was just like you. Then Maxim was born, and I realized I could change. I could be better. You can too." Ivan laughed bitterly. "Be better? How? Everyone I touch dies." "Then stop touching them," Kamdi said. "Surrender, go to prison, serve your time, but stop killing, stop destroying, let it end here." Maxim chose that moment to let out a real cry, the hungry, indignant wail Kamdi knew so well. The sound seemed to break through whatever was left of Ivan's rage. He lowered the gun completely. "Take him," Ivan said, his voice hollow. "Take the baby and go." "Ivan," Dmitri started. "I said go!" Ivan dropped the gun and fell to his knees. "I'm done! I'm so fucking done! Arrest me! Kill me! I don't care anymore! Just make it stop!" Sarah Chen and her team moved in carefully, surrounding Ivan. She nodded to Kamdi, who ran to Dmitri. He caught them both, holding them tight. "It's over," he whispered. "It's finally over." Kamdi buried her face in his chest and cried. For Ada and Zara, for Chidi, for Ivan's daughter, for all the lives destroyed by this world of violence and blood. And Maxim, blissfully unaware of everything, just kept crying to be fed. "Okay, I have to pause here because I know you're probably crying right now. I know I am. That moment when Ivan saw Maxim and remembered his own daughter? That's the humanity underneath the monster. That's why these stories matter, because even the worst people are still people. If you're feeling all the emotions right now, leave a comment and tell me what you thought of that confrontation. Now let me give you the epilogue you've been waiting for. 6 months later. Sicily, Italy. The villa overlooked the Mediterranean, different waters than where this all started, but somehow the same. Comedy stood on the terrace watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold, Maxime on her hip. He was 9 months old now, babbling constantly, pulling himself up on furniture, getting into everything with fearless determination. There you are. Dmitri came up behind her and wrapped his arms around them both. Dinner's almost ready. You're cooking? Comedy teased. Should I prepare antacids? Andreas is cooking, actually. He flew in this morning with Sarah. Sarah's here? Comedy turned in his arms. Why? Because we promised her she could be at the wedding, and the wedding is tomorrow. Dmitri's smile was warm. Unless you're getting cold feet? Never. Comedy kissed him. I've been ready to marry you since that clinic in Greece. They'd been in witness protection for 3 months. New names, new location, FBI surveillance. Ivan had cooperated fully once he surrendered, giving testimony that destroyed his entire organization. He was serving life in a maximum security prison, and his assets had been seized to compensate his victims' families, including a substantial amount that went to Comedy, blood money for Chidi, Ada, and Zara. She'd donated most of it to children's hospitals in Moscow and Lagos, kept just enough to start over. Dmitri had done the same, liquidated what remained of his empire, compensated the families of people he'd hurt, kept enough to disappear properly. They'd bought this villa under their new names, Mikhail and Ada Petrov. Ada, after Comedy's daughter, it felt right, keeping her memory alive this way. Mama! Maxime grabbed Comedy's face, squishing her cheeks. Yes, baby? Mama, mama, mama! It was his new favorite word. He'd been saying Dada for weeks, but Mama was fresh and exciting. I love you too, Comedy whispered, kissing his forehead. He knows, Dmitri said softly, that you're his mother in all the ways that count. I hope so. I hope Svetlana would approve. She would. She told me once, the night before she went into labor, that if anything happened to her, she wanted Maxime to have a mother who'd love him fiercely, who'd protect him, who'd be his champion. Dmitri's hand came up to cup Comedy's face. She got her wish. Inside the villa, Andreas was setting the table while Sarah helped, laughing at something he'd said. They'd become unlikely friends over the past months, the old Greek doctor and the young FBI agent. Ready to face our dinner guests? Dmitri asked. Almost. I need to tell you something first. Dmitri's expression sharpened. What? Comedy took his hand and placed it on her stomach. I'm pregnant, about 6 weeks. Dmitri's eyes went wide. We're having a baby. Comedy smiled through sudden tears. I found out this morning. I was going to wait until after the wedding to tell you, but I can't keep secrets from you. Dmitri dropped to his knees, pressing his face against her stomach. A baby. We're having a baby. Are you happy? Happy? Comedy, He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. I'm terrified and ecstatic and so fucking grateful I get to do this with you, with someone I actually love. Maxime, not understanding but wanting to be part of things, reached down to pat his father's head. Dada! They all laughed then, this strange, beautiful family they'd built from ashes and blood and impossible hope. Inside, Andreas called out in Greek that dinner was ready. We should go in, Comedy said. In a minute. Dmitri stood and pulled her into his arms, Maxime between them. I need to say this while it's just us. Thank you. For saving Maxime that first night. For trusting me when you shouldn't have. For choosing this life when you could have walked away. For loving me even though I don't deserve it. For giving me a family. For giving me everything. You gave me everything too, Comedy said. You gave me purpose, hope, a future, love. You gave me a reason to keep living when I wanted to die, so we're even. We're not even. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Then you'll spend the rest of your life happy, because I'm not going anywhere. They kissed, gentle and deep and full of promise. Maxime laughed and clapped, delighted by his parents being silly. Tomorrow they'd get married in a small ceremony on the beach. Sarah would be there, and Andreas, and a few local friends they'd made. Nothing fancy, nothing dangerous. Just love and commitment and hope for the future. In 9 months, they'd welcome a new baby. They'd already decided. If it was a girl, they'd name her Zara. If a boy, Yuri, keeping the memories of those they'd lost alive in new life. Dmitri would teach Maxim to be strong but kind, to use his strength to protect, not destroy. Comedy would teach him to love freely, to trust carefully, to never let fear stop him from living. And together they'd build the life they both deserved, the life they'd fought for, the life that started with breast milk and ended with forever. "Come on," Comedy said, pulling Dmitri toward the villa. "Let's go tell Andreas and Sarah they're going to be godparents to 2 children. Andreas will cry. Good. He needs to cry happy tears for once." They walked inside together, this dangerous man, this brave woman, and the baby who'd brought them together. Behind them, the Mediterranean sunset painted the sky gold. And somewhere in a Russian prison, Ivan Kozlov sat in his cell and thought about his daughter, about redemption, about second chances he'd never get. But Comedy and Dmitri, they got their second chance, and they weren't going to waste a single moment of it. If this story touched you, if you felt Comedy and Dmitri's journey, if you cried for Ada and Zara, if you believed in second chances and redemptive love, then please hit that subscribe button right now. We tell stories like this every single week, stories about broken people finding healing, about dangerous men discovering love, about women brave enough to risk everything for what matters. Drop a comment and tell me, what was your favorite moment in this story? Was it when Comedy first offered to breastfeed Maxim? When Dmitri proposed in the clinic? That intense moment when Ivan surrendered? I want to hear from you. And if you have friends who love intense romance stories with real stakes and real emotions, share this video with them. These stories deserve to be heard. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in love that conquers darkness. Until next time, remember, even in the most dangerous circumstances, love finds a way.